the FNL Network talk show.
All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Good.
Hello.
Doing good.
And Eugenia, I don't know you, so we get to know each other. You know, my crazy shirt, your wonderful painting. You know, we're going to be besties. I just feel it.
I know. I like how you just came on first and I thought you were Rocco for a second. You're not.
Yeah, because all Italians look alike, you racist. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. How you doing? I'm kidding.
So
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
I'll take it. It's a compliment. He had modeled. I was too short. So. You know, maybe I'm 6'4" when I'm sitting, but not when I'm standing. And then I'm 5'10". Slight difference. You know, slight difference.
I love your sense of humor.
Thank you. And somebody had a birthday, pray tell. Yeah, all right. What did you do?
Yeah,
What did you do for your birthday? How did you celebrate?
So this I did. I shut my shop down, and we were actually headed towards DC to go to the fabric store, but it was so late in the evening. We got caught in Suffolk, and I just decided because I need to get furniture and stuff for the place. So my mom called and she sent me all this money for my birthday, and I only spent that money on some new stuff.
Wow.
But
I want your mama.
And I was happy. So yeah, it was really, really good for me. So that's what I did, because I don't really take time off, and it was through the week. So they'll probably be doing something for me this weekend. But normally I'm always working. So I just shut it down. And one of the models was like, let me just drive you around. I was like, okay, you can wherever we want to go. So it was good for me. Yeah, it was good.
Good. Relaxing's good. All right. So I was thinking for my first topic that I wanted to discuss, what was like a great wedding, event, premiere, gala, party that, you know, anyone went to? And it could be more than one. It could be like weddings and events, whatever, you know, stood out and why it stood out to, you know, any of y'all. Like, you know, let's share like, you know, our good times partying, you know? So who wants to go first?
I can.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is very non-traditional. I'm going to preface with that. So a friend of mine was getting married and we were having her bachelorette party. But just think very country. We all had horses, so we went trail riding in the mountains. So it was a bachelorette get together. And there's this little town and they have like a little saloon and it's like the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
Well, we got to where we were staying. We took our horses and we're staying in this cabin. And I thought, oh, yes, cabin. I love cabins. So I got there and my friend said, oh, by the way, there's no running water. And so
Oh, wow.
here I was with my little makeup bag and ready to be cute. And there's no running water. And we're going to be there for several days. So I was like, okay, I can do this. So we got situated and we walked in the cabin and I see all these people that I don't know. So there were other people staying there at the same time. And we got apparently the upstairs and the other people got the downstairs. And her bridesmaids was in this group of people downstairs. And I didn't know that, or none of us knew that she was bringing these people. So we go upstairs. I reconciled to the fact that I'm not going to have a regular toilet. And she said, it's okay, there's an outhouse. So, oh, okay. Well, I've never used an outhouse before, but I can certainly try. I mean, there's no other option. So we got ready for bed. And the next morning I get up and I go downstairs and this woman walks up to me and she says, I need you to help me find my tooth. I lost it. And I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Find your tooth?
It wasn't in the outhouse, was it?
Oh, no. But I was so mortified because, I mean, first of all, I didn't have my contacts in yet. I left my glasses at home, so I couldn't see. And all these blurry people sitting on the couch. One of them had this huge beard. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. And she said, I need you to help me find my tooth. And so the hunt for the phantom tooth began. And we never found it. I think we were all traumatized. And then the lady decided she wanted to cook us breakfast. So she scrambled some eggs and I'm sitting there looking at them. And the only thing I can think is, my gosh, what if there's a tooth in these eggs? I did not want to eat. Oh my goodness. And the rest of the trip was a lot of fun. We rode our horses in the mountains and it was beautiful. But we took showers in the back of a horse trailer with a water hose because they had like a water hose outside. So it was definitely an experience, and it's not your typical event for sure. But in the end, I did have a good time, and it made for a funny story. And to this day, we still laugh so hard about it.
All right. I have no outhouse stories, so you win. I love it. I love it. What about you, Eugenia? Jeff?
You want to go second?
No, you go, Eugenia.
I didn't even think about weddings, thanks for bringing it up. Like, I think my wedding was pretty interesting. I changed the date a week before the actual wedding because I got a job in Paris, and I was so unromantic person for a long time. You know how a lot of times a lot of my friends, they grew up and they would see pictures of dresses in magazines and they would plan and this whole Cinderella thing. Well, I never had that concept. I'm like, I'm never going to get married. And then, somehow I got 2 kids and I decided to get married. But still, didn't plan it correctly. I'm such a spontaneous person. So for me, doing something like pre-planned and, okay, I agreed to have a wedding dress and I changed it as well last minute. So, and we did it in Los Angeles. My husband is based in Los Angeles. And there's a lot of characters. I found out our priest was an actor. So I wasn't even sure if our wedding was real.
Love that.
So I got introduced to the wedding that way, but other than that, it was fantastic. And another amazing event that I went to was actually one of the last shows for Yves Saint Laurent himself. I was a child, I think I was like 14. I started modeling and came to Paris, and he was one of the first people who hired me to do this job. And it was, I remember, like a huge soccer game for France, and all the supermodels like Carla Bruni, Claudia Schiffer, Naomi were doing it. And I was just in awe. There were hundreds of models, and it was a big match. Europeans love soccer, and France won. So it was just such a pleasure to work, with amazing creatives and also celebrate with the whole country, a big event, and I could never forget it. And Cannes Film Festival as well. I never thought I would walk the red carpet, and it was a real Cinderella moment as well. So it's fun.
Yeah, were you in a movie that was at Cannes, or were you attending one? Or
yeah, I had a short film in Cannes, so I was attending like a bigger red carpet. The events they structured, like our film wasn't part of the competition, but I attended the red carpet as like part of the festival.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's really fun.
All right, you, Jeff, and then I'll blab on forever.
Okay, so mine is kind of funny. My aunt is a wedding. My aunt got married, and they had a reception at the end, and they had this big party. I'm underage, remember, y'all. I'm probably about 13, 14. And I was the one drinking the mixed drinks. I was going around to everybody's table drinking the mixed drinks. Woo-hoo. And my daddy was just like, why is my son acting weird? Like, what's going on with him? And I was, woo. I was everywhere. I was so drunk. My dad looked at me and he was like, has he been drinking? And he smelled my breath. My daddy told me I didn't even feel that because I was so feeling it. And that was everybody talked about that I was the little fat boy walking around drinking all the mixed drinks on the tables and getting drunk at the
Good for you.
Wedding. So I experienced liquor at an early age. So that was my funny moment to me, and they talk about it still today. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, what I was thinking is 2 weddings, and I'll say like what separated them, and then a couple times he's kind of full circle of going to the Tony Awards and the after parties. So the one wedding I really liked was my friends, they didn't have a lot of money, but they were into the Ren Fair. And then so it was a costume themed party. They just had like a local Italian restaurant. And so everybody was in costumes. We all pitched in to make it a nice event, but it seemed very personalized and it really seemed to reflect them. Whereas I've been to like many weddings and events that doesn't really show anything to do with the people really involved. It's just, like now we do this, now we do that. Here's the hors d'oeuvres, here's the food. And so I really loved the personal touch. And I just thought it was a really cute idea. And like, to be like, oh, hail the bride as we walk through the Ren Fair and stuff. And, I'm not even that big into the Ren Fair, but I knew they were. So the personal touches I thought was really nice. Now, on the flip side, I was invited as someone's guest to a couple's wedding reception on New Year's Eve at the top of the rock at like 50 Rockefeller Center where the big tree is and everything every year. So the wedding was on New Year's Eve. I didn't even know the couple, but they were loaded and it was awesome because like the whole reception was like over $3,500 a person because I found out that's how much, the room upstairs was with another party going on. They had great taste because I've eaten at Cipriani's a few times and the food's kind of hit and miss. Everything they chose was great. I was drinking, Dom Perignon all night long. My friend wound up singing in the band. Then, because we weren't getting a good after party gift, I snuck up to the party upstairs because I made friends with the security guards. I was like, hey, can I go up and steal a gift bag? And they're like, I didn't see you. And it's like, all right. I was like, I'll get you a gift bag. So I did. So I ran upstairs, I stole a gift bag, and there was a children's table with all these hats. So I put on a Roman gladiator hat, went back down to the wedding. Then the photographer's taking all these pictures because now I have a Roman hat on. I'm dancing with my friend. The couple doesn't even know me. So they probably see all these pictures later of like, who was that idiot in a Roman hat? And why was he wearing a Roman hat? But it's because when I was drunk, like Jeff at a party, I decided, let me go upstairs and get a gift bag. So, and then I didn't know that the city had fireworks on New Year's Eve, but I was above, the whole city. So looking out, it's like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So it was just a really great New Year's, even though I didn't know the couple. I couldn't care less about the couple, but it was a great darn party and I got a gift bag. So, hey, what more could I want? So those are my two favorite weddings for different reasons. And the Tonys, it's kind of fun. I was thinking of this one. Did any of you folks watch Inventing Anna on Netflix?
Yeah, it was interesting. And at first I was like, oh, they didn't hire any Russian actors, but she did such an amazing job. And like the story just so beautiful. And
I loved it. I mean, to me, like, because I'm totally all about like finding the deal and finding like a scam. So I'm like a very like low level Anna. So, and I love like her whole thing. She's like, don't be basic. My father will wire you the money. Why are you so poor, Rachel? It was just like, I loved the crazy accent she did. Anyhow, it made me remember when I first moved to New York, I came here, as an actor. I didn't know how I was going to live and how I was going to eat. So I cater waitered. And then I hated it. I would be there and I'd be like, I should be at this party. I don't want to serve at these parties. So from one of the years there, I knew where they were having a Tony after party the next year. So a girl who I'd already crashed a VH1 event with, who I was friends with, I was like, hey, want to crash an after party for the Tonys? And she's like, sure. I was like, okay. So I dressed up, I show up and I'm like, yeah, I'm Tony Bennett's nephew because my last name's Bennet. And I was like, I should be totally on the list. We watched the Tony Awards, so the timing would work out with us entering. And then, there was like a nice gay guy at the reception. He's like, I don't see you. And I saw Vanessa Williams like further in because she was in the revival of Into the Woods at the time. And I'm like, hey, Vanessa. And she waved back, but she's like, oh, some gay. Let me just wave. And then the guy at the front was like, oh, just go in. And I was like, okay, thanks. So I go in. And now I know all the cater waiters because I had just waited with them like 6 months earlier. And I was all dressed up. And they're like, wow, you're doing so well. I'm like, yes, I am. And I'm like, I'll take an hors d'oeuvre, thank you. And I was like, but I try to stay humble. And then Susan Stroman, who choreographed Music Man on Broadway and Contact and other shows, I wound up dancing with her at the party, dancing with Vanessa Williams, having hors d'oeuvres. I like totally loved it. And, then I remember after that night, a few years later, the same girl I went with was like, well, do you want to like crash some event? And I was like, I'm getting older. I was like, next time, when I go to a party, I'm going to be invited. Well, the little hater, the next year, she calls me and I totally forgot about it. She's like, so are you invited to the Tonys? And I'm like,
Stressed out.
and I'm like, my very big jaw dropped. I was like, here. And I was like, no. Well, a year after that, guess who's dating somebody's son who produces Broadway? And so I was invited to 2 openings and 2 after parties. And then I called her back and was like, yeah, I just took an extra year, but I made it with my invite. So anyhow, those are my stories.
Buddy.
Those are the best. Those are awesome, John. That's hilarious. I wish I could have been there to see you dancing in a Roman hat, a gladiator hat. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the couple was like, who is this goofball? But whatever. I had a great time. I was fine.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
And you're such a good actor, you know.
Yes, it's very entertaining.
Yes, definitely.
And then I wanted to know with y'all, like for me, like a lot of things have come out of it, you know, surprisingly from the pandemic that I think are kind of positive. Are there any things that you've gotten from it or changes that's happened in your lives that you think is kind of positive after the whole COVID thing and where we are today?
I found my independence.
I
found my independence.
Oh, nice. Like Mariah Carey.
Because I've always, all my life, I've always depended on people and depended on my family. And when my family transitioned and moved, I didn't know what it feels like to really be independent, to find your identity and know that you can do it without them. So that was good. The transition was really good for me. You know, I got my own place because most of the time I'm always with my family, you know? So it was good for me. It really was. I'm living my best life. I'm serious. And, you know, I love my family, but I was always the one that would do everything for everybody. Like everybody would call me, can you go do this? Can you do that? And I really didn't have a life, but now I can go do what I want to do. And they're enjoying their life. My mom's in Radford and my sister's in Greensboro, and they're living their best life. And I'm just starting to live my best life right now. So yeah, the transition was good for me. It was a good place, a good positive. And my brand took off. Zunique.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zunique took off during the pandemic. So that was really good.
It's called Zunique?
Zunique, yeah.
Yeah, promote it.
Yeah.
Because you're so Zunique. What?
Unique.
Just saying. What about you, Eugenia? Anything like great popped up?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, except for we're on Zoom and like my leaf blower, you guys can hear him in the back. But so many amazing things happen in pandemic. I think, you know, when you go back to, you know, kind of survival mode, you just go back to basics. And I think connecting to nature, you know, I had more time. My dog was super, super happy. Finally, you know, I had time to spend so much time with him and, you know, my kids as well. I think you really, you know, cherish this time with your family, and crazy things come up, like, because, you know, you're so close, but also you just become so much closer in those times. And I think the same, you know, I grew up, I was such a people pleaser all the time, and being a Capricorn, such a workaholic, you know, since being a child. So I would always take, you know, yes for an answer, like would never stop and reflect and take time for myself and self-care. So finally, I didn't have to answer every call and say like, yeah, I can help you with this production and I can do that. And, you know, I'm so resourceful and like, let me just help you. Because I do try to be of help, you know, especially to my friends. But finally, I could really, you know, reflect and see where I needed to say no, because I really needed that, you know, cup half full. And, you know, meditation, just kind of focusing on what really matters. Living in Los Angeles, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, especially being in an entertainment business, you always live in this like imaginary world and all these events, and finally everything stopped. So, you know, you have to really see what is important, and all of these things is just work, you know, and we're all humans. And I think also, you know, kindness kind of came back to me, because even though I remember that time when everybody was, you know, really anxious and like stacking on toilet paper and things like that, for me, it was a reminder to, you know, kind of step back and, you know, be just kind to another person, you know, and share and these values, like I have to reassess a lot of things. But I think spending time with my kids and, you know, my family, and we adopted, my daughter adopted 4 birds.
Oh, sounds like Marianne.
She found a connection, you know, because kids are amazing. They're so resourceful. You know, they couldn't see their friends, and she found this amazing connection to birds. She trained 2 of them. She would pack them in the bag and go to the grove or something and, you know, fly them around, and kind of became a bird whisperer. So that was a discovery as well. And also, I think the best things that come out over the situations like that, you know, like growing up in post-Soviet Russia, I feel like we went through a lot of traumatic things as well, but nothing like this on global scale, of course. I think people are amazingly resilient, and creativity in this time comes out that you never like even could imagine. A lot of comedians, you know, we are so used to live audiences, and first everybody was like, okay, all the clubs are closed. But then we found, you know, doing shows on Zoom or crazy kind of strange apps, but we found a way to entertain and put on plays and, you know, even do photo shoots. I remember we did like a Vogue photo shoot through the camera. Photographer was in New York. I love this photographer, so I was super excited. But then you have to hold your own camera and do your own makeup with a makeup artist on Zoom. But I feel it's amazing, you know, things that come creatively, and like how you can train your brain to, you know, just to do artistic things and be positive, and, you know, even in those hard times, kind of connect and do storytelling. So I feel really blessed, you know, to go through that and be reminded of how simple things really matter.
Oh, that's nice.
Good. That was nice. Yeah.
Now, did you prefer hanging out with the dog or the kids? Just curious.
Wait, is there like a lie detector anywhere?
There might be. Just saying.
I can just tell you, my kids would definitely prefer to hang out with my dog rather than because they're teenagers. But of course, you know, I love my kids, even though my kids would always say like, "Oh, you love the dog is number one. If anybody goes, we go first." But it's not true. Of course, it's not true.
Sure. I'm kidding. What about you, Marianne?
So during the pandemic, let's see, it started early 2020. My dad, and when I say my dad, this is not my biological father, but he chose to raise me. He adopted me as a baby, and he chose to be my dad. He got COVID, and he got very, very sick.
Oh, no.
And I remember getting a phone call from my brother, and I just fell to the kitchen floor, and I was in tears because, you know, you realize then at that moment, because I'd seen people dying from it. It's a real virus, and my dad was not vaccinated at the time, and I was so scared for him because he was in his 70s. He already had high blood pressure and some other health issues. So I think that really brought it home to me just how special and important family is. And also a reminder that our true family sometimes isn't always blood. You know, it reminded me just how much he had done for me growing up, just taking me in and giving me a home and wanting me. And I was thinking about the reality that I could end up living without him very soon. You know, he got blood clots in his lungs. He was kept overnight. And at one point, he took himself out of the hospital, and they said, "You realize you are denying treatment?" And he said, "Yeah." And he was very stubborn, but then he let my brother take him back to the hospital a day later. And I was so glad, because he probably wouldn't be here had he not gotten treatment. And I would say that's one of the biggest things that I gathered from the pandemic, like others have said, is the importance of family and what family means and who to focus on. The people that have been there for you your whole life and the people that you matter to, those are the people to focus on. And the small stuff, the little trivial problems of life, they just fade away when you think about somebody losing their life that you really love. So that's one of the biggest things that I got from it. I would say something else. I spent a lot more time with my animals outside. It was a time of self-discovery, kind of becoming more of an independent woman rather than dependent on other people. This sounds trivial, but I discovered weight training. I mean, I've never been someone to lift weights. I've always just been a runner, but I started lifting weights and that made me feel strong. And I became almost addicted to it. I absolutely love it. And it was really a transformation for me because I had a lot of time to sit at home and just think about parts of my life that I wanted to change, negative things about myself that I wanted to change. Everybody has room for improvement, in my opinion, in certain areas of their life. And I really started to work on those. So those are some things that I got from the pandemic.
Nice. Well, yeah, I have nothing to improve. I'm perfect, but speak for yourself, Marianne. That's all right. Totally kidding, of course. Okay, well, first of all, how's your dad now?
He's great. He's
Yay.
great. He's got a girlfriend, and I love her. And they're getting
COVID
married,
ain't keeping away a booty call. Look at that. Mm. Hey, baby, let me cough on you.
He is 74 years old, and he is in better health than he's ever been. Just saying.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, luckily, I didn't know
Yeah.
anybody who was affected health-wise with COVID. I mean, and
Yeah.
my mom, she's a little overweight and she's diabetic. So I'm like, get that shot. She did it. It took forever,
Yeah,
but luckily
for
she was
sure.
okay. But she didn't do much. I mean, either as far as like leaving the house and things of that nature.
Right.
You know, Jeff found his independence. You know, you got closer with your dad and what you wanted. Eugenia got closer with the kids and the dog and what's, you know, top priority. Mine is all about money and superficiality is what I got out of it. I took every free loan from the government and it was nice, not working and just taking some money. Yeah, I'll take an SBA. Yeah, I'll take a PPP. Yeah, you got a PPP. Yeah, you know me. Every last homie. What? So I enjoyed that from the pandemic. I also learned what the heck Zoom was because I didn't know. And then it gave me opportunities I never had before. I booked a pilot in Washington, D.C. And, you know, then they wound up, you know, flying me and putting me up. I was like, that's awesome. I had a callback for a Lifetime movie, single black female. That wasn't the role I was up for. But anyhow, and it was in Atlanta. So I was like, that's awesome. So now it kind of inspired me to try to like find agents out of state and other opportunities. And in certain ways, like growing up poor, like odd jobs will pop up here or there. And sometimes I really don't want to do it. But if I had nothing else going on or fear of being poor again, I would take it. And at some point I'm like, nah, I'm good. Or I can say no to this. So I think it's made me a little bit more courageous with what I will do or not do and to focus, you know, my energies in areas that I think are a little bit, you know, more suited towards myself. And I also learned from a friend a lot about the stock market. I mean, one of my friends, she made 6 figures just like swing trading on stocks. And now I didn't make quite that. I, you know, made like pennies comparatively. But, you know, I now have an interest in stocks and, you know, selling and purchasing and have a little bit of a familiarity. Whereas before, I really knew nothing about it. It seemed over my head. And when I talked to my friend, I was like, oh, this is actually quite doable. So I got a slightly better skill set out of the whole pandemic, you know, as well. And I got more auditions during the pandemic and more bookings. I even was in Inventing Anna, but then they voiced over me. But I think, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of people moved or my competition died. Either way, it was very good for me. So I'm like, you know, whatever it takes. If, you know, it takes a respirator for me to book a role, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, you know, whatever. Anyhow, kidding.
So true, Sean. You know, I think like now with all these networks, right, for artists now, there's so many channels. Like if you're a creator and you have skills, you can just work every day. It's incredible. Congratulations.
Well, look at this, like Rocco and Fashion News Live, you know, as a network, and, you know, us being able to do this. I mean, so just like things out of, you know, something negative, a positive, or things can be born, you know, out of destruction, I guess life can come or what have you, you know, so it's kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm stealing the last little question that it came from RuPaul, because I really, I like RuPaul's Drag Race. I like RuPaul, who's always like, if you can't love yourself, then how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Can I have an amen? And so anyhow, so there's a couple tidbits I like to do this. And one thing he did was showed, the contestants, a picture of themselves. And they're like, if you could talk to yourself as a child, what would you say? Like, what advice would you say? Or any encouraging words you would say? I chose the age 9, but it could be at any point or anything that resonates to you. So if you were to go back to yourself, or even you're a mother, I'm not a parent, so maybe even what you want your kids to really know, Eugenia, or whichever works better for you. Who would like to lead it off?
I can.
Okay, let's do it.
So for my 9-year-old self, I would tell myself that your weirdness is going to be your superpower. And don't try to be like everybody else. Because when I was that age, kids bullied me terribly. And I remember starting my very first diet around that age. And it's pitiful that I had to do that because I wasn't even fat. I wasn't overweight. But kids are mean. And even at that age, a lot of them will seek out somebody that they feel is weak in whatever way. Me, I didn't have a self-esteem at that time. They picked on me because they knew it got to me. And I was weird. I still am weird, not gonna lie. But in the end, I love the fact that I am different, because that has made my life so much more fulfilling. It's made me have more opportunities than your standard average person would. It took me many, many years to come to terms with the fact that being different is a good thing. And I tried to fit in with those kids, dress like them, talk like them, look like them. And I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't created to be like everybody else. I was created to be me. And you know what? The older I get, the less I care what somebody else has to say about me. There's going to be people that don't like me. They're not going to like my bright pink lipstick. They're not going to like my flamboyant songs, Jeff. They're not going to like my dances in the middle of Walmart. I do all these things, but I enjoy being me. I enjoy being free and being myself. And if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be that my weirdness would be my superpower, and don't let anybody steal the light that's in you. That's what I would say.
Woohoo!
That was beautiful.
Yes, and hopefully those haters all got COVID. Just saying, because I'm a Christian. Anyhow, that's how I view it. What about you, Jeff? What would you say to little Jeff?
Look, I would say the little Jeff, just be confident and walk in the things that you desire to become. I was very shy, and so many things happened to me as a little child. So I lacked confidence, and I always felt like I needed someone there so I could fulfill whatever I was trying to do. But I'm learning in my older age that it's good to walk along and walk in your purpose. And you meet great people walking along, and sometimes letting go of people that you don't want to let go. The fear factor, overcoming that and being confident in knowing who you are creates a good, how do I say it, a good story to tell, because you never know who you're going to meet. So I'm learning to do that and be more confident. So I would tell a little Jeff, just if you dream it, be it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create that little Jeff and a big Jeff now.
Woohoo!
You're doing great.
Thank you.
I love it. What about you, Eugenia?
Yeah, thank you guys. I love your answers. I think it's interesting to listen to other people's answer, because you definitely, see it in yourself. Like, I think we're all kind of connected in that, and these are just such beautiful lessons. Well, first of all, I don't know if you read, there was an article about the boy who was bullied and he was put on fire, which like really kind of resonated with me, the bullying thing. I think it's so important, to monitor your kids and like see the environment, and especially now with pandemic, because a lot of them are online and playing games, and that really resonated with me. And confidence too. I think we grew up in a country where it was communism and you have to do everything by the rules, and you lose your confidence. Like, people tell you your intuition doesn't matter. And I was told since I was a child, even by my parents, like, oh, you're too sensitive. Like you just don't belong here. So you kind of start losing that sense of like, okay, I can trust my intuition and I can be who I am, and you start losing confidence and you just do what other people tell you to do until, you realize that it's not authentic way to live. But I'm fascinated, like you, Sean, like I love acting and, human nature, just like actually working with therapy all the time. I love all of my therapists, and I started doing, it's very popular in LA, but it's also amazing, like microdosing mushrooms. And I don't do drugs or whatsoever, but this is kind of a therapy that you do with a therapist, and you work on your inner child. So you go back to, connecting to like those different stages, of your inner child. I know there's notion that your kind of subconscious self forms from the age of 0 to 7 or 8. And then, unless you really, really work hard on it, like a lot of things you act out or that are in your life are from that subconscious beliefs, which is fascinating. So this
I disagree with you. I'm kidding.
But a lot of times you form like your adult relationships based on whatever you grew up believing, like, or who your parents are, and you find those partners who are like your parents, and like there's certain lessons that need to be taught, or you just go on the wheel, reliving those childhood things and traumas. So I've been thinking about 9-year-old self. I remember, and I look at that picture, I was so open and so just naive. I love nature, and then maybe when I became like teenager, 13, a lot of things, started modeling and like bullying, and, some trauma started happening. So I definitely closed my heart and did everything from my head for a long time. It was all about like material achievement, coming from poor family like you. Like, I was like, okay, I bought my Prada bag and I bought my Porsche and I bought my apartment, and like, what's next? And like, it's never enough. And thank God, somehow I do believe there's some higher power or like fate that brought me to that silly acting class, because I was in Los Angeles and was fired from a few sets because I couldn't act, because it's a different skill from modeling. And I remember being in my first class with Margie Haber, and they pointed at me like, well, this is the example of like a mask in a human. And first of all, I was so disappointed, but then like looking back, I actually can see that I just shut down like all my emotions. I was so disconnected from any kind of feeling or expressing anything. And it took me a while, to kind of, I think acting, like any art, drawing or anything you do is so therapeutic to get like the shadow of yourself, or like that subconscious mind. And I think it's just fascinating if you start to connect to that child. And I would definitely just say to that inner child, go with your intuition. And that's why a lot of times I listen to my kids, I try to listen authentically, because they might be so much wiser, in what they say, and they're so much more connected to present moment. So they're my teachers in so many ways as well. Yeah, I would say that.
I like it. And now I want to microdose on mushrooms. What? Be like, I don't know if it's my inner child, but I'm feeling good. All right. So I think what I would say, like, I think I came up with the 9-year-old age because when I think about it in retrospect, because it's the age when my parents got divorced and I had to move. And what was more traumatic was, just kind of like leaving my whole world behind, the house I knew and I liked, the friends I knew and I liked. So I think that's probably why that age, just popped out in my mind. But a lot of my story would be similar to Marianne's. It would essentially be, to embrace my own uniqueness. I mean, it's very funny. I think I had no choice to, but I didn't even realize, because like I looked at my high school yearbook and everybody had signed like, I've never met anyone like you. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was so strange and unusual. Like, it's like, to me, I'm me, but clearly I scared the shit out of a lot of people. Who knew? And, I had a very hard 10th grade where it's like beat into a pulp. So I'd like to tell myself, that you will survive it, and not only survive it, but you will thrive, because the following years when I found a high school of performing arts to go to. So I was able to go from being a victim to claiming my own little bit of a victory. Then also I'd probably tell myself that, your dad will never be the father you deserve. But the sooner you forgive him, the better it will be for you. Because what I've learned is really forgiveness is not really for yourself. It's for yourself. It's not really for the other person. I mean, that's why you're doing it, because you can't control how anybody else will ever react, whether they'll ever grow up, whether they'll say they're sorry, or whatever it might be that maybe we could be holding on to in many different areas. But when you let go and forgive them, you are empowered. And when you claim your role in that. So before my dad had passed away, I did reach out to him, and it was the only time I think I had ever heard him say he loved me, to be honest, from me actually reaching out. And it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't exactly what I'd want it to be, but I think it was very healing, and maybe even if I did it sooner, it would have been a good thing. Then I tell myself, you will move to New York. It's where your heart is. You're going to join the union. You're going to live well without working too hard. Thumbs up. Your mother will always be a part of your heart and your support system. To continue reaching out to the rest of my family, because by me reaching out, it made the bond stronger, because I don't know, as a smaller family unit, we weren't as strong as you would think for whatever weird reason. We were all in our own little pods. Then lastly, it will take you longer than you thought to get your ultimate success, but enjoy the journey, lead with love and laughter, because I'm still ready to marry for money. So if anybody's listening, please feel free to call me, or if you have a role, I'm willing to work for it. I'm willing to marry for it. I'm willing to give you COVID for it, whatever it takes. Really at this point, TikTok, baby Jesus. And most importantly, to 9-year-old self, Sean, listen up, run out and buy stock in Bitcoin, Netflix, Zoom, Facebook, and Apple now. You need to be rich, baby Sean. You need to be rich. TikTok. That's everything.
Yes.
Wouldn't we all?
Right? I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, who knew?
That's funny.
You're hilarious. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My stomach is hurting laughing at you so much tonight. Oh
You do stand up too, Sean? You're so funny.
yeah.
Thank you.
You
I did a
should.
while back, but I haven't for quite a while. But thank you. I'll take it. So, Anything else? Any final thoughts from everybody? I had fun talking to y'all.
What do you guys think about Met Gala, since it's a fashion network? What are your predictions?
For the Met Gala?
Yeah, the one in New York.
Yeah. When is it? I didn't even know it's coming up.
I think it's coming around May 5th. So it's literally around the corner. I haven't looked what is the theme for it, but I think it's just always so interesting, what is going to happen this year. Because last year it was definitely a carnival of characters. And
Always nudity and crazy outfits, so it'll definitely be fun. I should crash that this year to be consistent.
yes, here you go. Okay.
Let's Rocco, if you can get me an invite. Otherwise, I still have no morals. I have no shame. I might just show up.
Well, you do work for
what? I'm
Fashion
Lady
Network.
Gaga. I look different in person.
It is so
Who knows?
funny.
I love it.
Funny.
Anybody else? Anybody have anything exciting coming up this weekend or next week?
I'm
just gotta
excited to
work
go
on
to
this
Cannes.
club. Yeah.
You're gonna go to Cannes again?
Yeah, really
Look
excited.
at you, living the life. I love it.
Yeah. Well, come crush it with me.
I would love to. Please, next time, give me advance notice. I'll crash anything, anywhere. Yes, that's awesome. I love it. Congrats. That's fun.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I wish you all a wonderful night, a great weekend. Enjoy Cannes for me. I don't hate you, maybe just a little.
I like your honesty.
I was like, yeah. Oh, well, if only I was perfect looking and blonde. Then I would be sitting in an imaginary nice apartment. I'd have a fancy painting. Oh, look at me, I'm married with kids and a dog. I have to steal from the government.
It's hilarious. Oh my God.
Kidding, I love you.
Wow.
You are a comedian.
to the